Holy movie moguls, Flight Check fans. It is time for the final episode of Flight Check for Season 1. 2021 is almost in the books, and we are very excited to have a special show for you tonight. I am Sandy Toes. To my left and my extra left are my constant co-hosts, Noxwar and Curly Tubble Q. But tonight, below me, the head coach and general manager of FlyQuest, Sharkz Nxi, Phan, also joining the show. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules. We're really excited to get you on and just talk about the LCS off-season, how things went, what you're looking towards for the future, and maybe a few spicy meatballs. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Great, dude. Thanks for having us. Final episode of the year.
Yeah. We're next week's basically Christmas, so
Wow. All right, so this is basically the Christmas special version.
Yeah. This is the Christmas special episode,
and you guys are the gifts.
And
thank you so
Alex
much for being
Alex
here.
is the gift. Yeah. I am Santa Claus.
we can be the elves then. We're just helping out.
Sounds good.
So usually we just start the show off with a little banter. How have your weeks been going? I know, I'm sure, have scrims started yet? Are you allowed to say that or not?
Sorry guys, I need to be right back, like 2 minutes. I need to order Subway with spicy meatballs real quick. It actually made me hungry.
Oh no!
Screams hasn't started yet.
Okay.
They'll start a little bit later. They'll start first week of January.
Okay, makes sense.
For us, just like for most of the teams, some teams are boot camping in Korea. So when these teams come back and the rest of the teams fly in their rosters, as soon as they get their visas, that's when the scrim's gonna start.
Awesome. Yeah, Nick, how about you? How was your weekend? Are you looking forward to Christmas?
Yeah, I mean, it's always just family time. Like pretty low frills. Nothing happens too much, I think.
Yeah.
Up until the end of the year, we're always working and prepping for next year anyway. So we have other teams, like Alex mentioned, are doing boot camps, whether that's in Korea, Europe, wherever. We have something planned for our team, but it's more on the team building, synergy building side of things. And Alex has talked about it, I've talked about it in previous interviews if people haven't seen it. And a really big emphasis for us is just to build relationships and kind of create the culture where it allows all of us to be able to keep each other accountable and take care of each other. And I'm excited to get that going, and then when we finally bounce into practice, hopefully we're able to show some good things.
Awesome. Yeah, we're excited to watch the team. Lock-in for sure is going to be a good time. And then LCS Spring, I'm excited personally that the standings are no longer carrying over from spring to summer. I'm looking forward to going back to the way things were. I'm not sure they ever should have changed. So we'll see how we feel about see how things pan out there. Nox, Curly, I know you've been doing a lot of streaming recently.
I have been very, very busy. After this, I'm also sorry for the floodlights about to come on. Oh boy, yep, there it goes. Anyway, resetting. But
it really bring out your eyes.
Yeah.
Thank you. But no, I've been doing this is going to be day 10 at 10 p.m. of my 12 days of Christmas, and it's been a lot. And then, as I said before the show, I've also been working a lot. I may or may not have worked today for this. So I don't know how I'm existing right now, but like I'm glad. That's precisely it. I'm glad I'm here and still alive for this edition of Flight Check.
Absolutely. Nox, Christmas coming up for you. I know you're doing some travel, right?
Going skiing / snowboarding. Snowboarding for the first time next week. So
Lovely.
That should be very interesting. We'll see how badly bruised I am by the time I come back.
Yeah, we're gonna need.
May or may not be in a cast.
Yeah, we're going to need your girlfriend to take some videos of you falling over.
There will be plenty.
Excellent.
Don't worry.
I look forward to that. All right, so we're going to just go through some questions, just like talk about off-season, things like that. So quick background for those of you who are not super aware of Nick and Sharkz' background. So Nick has been around the LCS scene for several years now. I think Team Liquid for a year, and then Immortals also for a year. Correct me if I'm wrong here. And then FlyQuest back in 2018, and has been there since. And then Sharkz, you've been mostly in like the CIS region. You were with G2 for a little bit, Vega Squadron. Did a lot of work within the ERLs. Vodafone Giants, G2 Heretics, Ago Rogue. You won EU Masters with them for a few years, and then joined FlyQuest at the beginning of last year. And now you are head coach. I guess first question, are you excited? I mean, I'm sure you are, but how do you feel about taking on this head coaching role? I'm sure it's a big opportunity.
It is a big one. It is first time leading the team in the top league from head coach as a head coach. Mm-hmm. So super excited. Definitely the stakes are way higher, the pressure is higher, the competition is better, and the level is higher. So down for a challenge. Super excited. Can't wait to start. I mean, I did kind of start. We started the process long time ago, right? For us, it was as soon as the season ended, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just can't wait to get in there. In the heat of the process, with all the scrims going, tournament matches going, already can't wait. That pretty much middle of January, as soon as the lock-in tournament's gonna start, that we're gonna jump in and be on stage already. So it's less than a month. So can't wait for my first game as a head coach.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, so first, kind of the softball question. We always like to throw this one out there on interviews. I mean, how did you both get into League of Legends and then, get into then the esports scene afterwards? Because League of Legends, it's a game. Not everyone gets into League of Legends, but then esports is even, more of a niche than, League of Legends is. So, I mean, Nick, first, I mean, how did you get into the whole scene?
Honestly, it was kind of a long time ago. I had been working in wealth management for a while, and when the opportunity kind of presented itself to join, I had been helping out at Team Liquid for a number of things, and eventually I decided the competitive side of things was just what seemed the most fun, and I eventually made my transition over there. Worked with Joka Steve. He's kind of a legend in the scene, right? Old school member. And so worked with the league side mostly, but kind of, touched on pretty much everything. And that's really how I got my start.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. Sharkz, I mean, what got you kind of into coaching and the whole esports scene in general?
Oh, that's different. That's multiple questions at the same time, because League of Legends, different things got me to coaching, different things got me to league, and different things got me to, what was the last one? Coaching, league, and esports scene, right?
Esports,
it's everything.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to start with?
Let's get into coaching. Yeah, how do you get into coaching?
Coaching, just play tennis professionally, and as soon as you were growing up, and I turned 15, 16. And that's the age when you were getting, more mature in tennis, and you started playing pro tournaments, because usually as a male, you start playing tournaments at the age of 15, 16, the pro tournaments, because that's usually the period when you physically able to compete with grown up men, 25, 30 years old.
Yeah.
So, and that's the age when you start getting opportunities, parents here and there offer upcoming kids who are 13, 14, can you please play with my daughter, play with my son, can you coach them, and so on. So of course, as a kid with whose tennis for me was my obsession and my hobby and my everything, right? Pretty much as soon as school was over, I was just on the tennis court from 2 p.m. till pretty much until bedtime, unless I need to do a lot of homework. So that's how I got into coaching, right? Just opportunities by, parents' request, play with their kids. And because Belarus actually junior-wise was pretty good in tennis. So not only it was I wouldn't say it was a boring coaching lessons where, you just play with a person who is first time in tennis, but these kids were actually super competitive. So not only I was getting money and enjoying coaching, meanwhile I could practice something for myself as well. So it was just, positive experience all over. And I did enjoy it a lot, right? I did enjoy it a lot. Every time when I came to United States to study, every time I would go back home for a summer break, I would do coaching as well, pretty much for 4 months, at least 5 days a week. My schedule was fun. I would practice with my coach from 8 a.m. till 9:30, and then I would just start coaching other kids from like 10 a.m. and whenever the day would finish, it would finish. So that's how I got into coaching. Into esports scene, I was a big fan of esports scene probably since I was like 12 or 13. So I was just playing World of Warcraft, and I knew about my stepfather's nephew. He was a StarCraft player, and I remember he came once to our apartment and he kind of showed me all the BlizzCons and some other things, and I was like, damn, this is hella cool, And I was streaming, I was really competitive as well, so I was following the BlizzCons, I was following players like Rekful, Azael. It's kind of crazy, I was chatting with Azael on Discord a couple days ago about one of our players, so that was fun, Back when I was 12 and I was watching his WoW streams, I couldn't believe, that I would be coaching a League of Legends team, and he would be casting, eventually casting my team. So that would got me into esports, just like World of Warcraft PvP community, and kind of just the competitive part of it, and into League of Legends. So I kind of gave myself a promise, because not only, I'm sure we've all been there, maybe we're still there, maybe I'm still addicted to League of Legends. So when I was 15, 16, I was definitely addicted to World of Warcraft. I can tell you the time it was bad. Like, looking back at it, it was bad. I would literally go to sleep like at 10, 11 p.m. when I was like 14, 15. And I remember, and we lived like in a 2-bedroom apartment with my parents. And my parents pretty much could hear everything. So I remember I would literally just like stay up from 11 p.m. to like 1, 2 a.m. until my stepfather would go to bed. And as soon as I remember his door would just like shut down towards their bedroom, and I was just waiting for the sound, I would just pull out my laptop from my under my pillow, and I would just like get the mouse pad and a mouse, and I would just play Arena till 6 a.m., sleep for like hour and a half, and go to school every single day, sleep. And that got bad. I remember I broke my arm, so I had no tennis, so I could slack and just like play games and study, and it got bad. The addiction was on another level.
That's amazing. I did something similar when I was big into the Civilization games. Just wait until my folks went to bed, pull out the laptop, and then Civilization 4 or 5 until 3 in the morning. Good times.
Nice.
So to finish it up, I made myself a promise. United States, new life, no World of Warcraft. So I didn't play it like for a year and a half. And I think after some of my friends from WoW, they're like, yo, there is like a new game we're playing, League of Legends, you want to give it a shot? And I think my finals ended, and I was just waiting for a week before like going back to Belarus for a break. And, there was nothing to do, so I decided to try the game out. I remember playing some Teemo, Misfortune, Renekton my first couple of games. I actually don't remember what was my first champion, but that's kind of what got me into League, just previous WoW friends.
So what season did you get into League?
Season 3, that was when I started. And I remember the season I remember I was watching, because I was like, got in the game. As soon as I got in the game, I was like, okay, what's up with the competitive scene? And I think as soon as I got in the game, couple months later, or maybe like a month later, I was watching the season 3 finals. I think it was it was Staples Arena in LA, right?
Yes.
I think it was season 3, right?
Was. I actually watched that.
So I remember watching it, and I was like, I just want to be part of it. That's it, I thought that's hella cool. It's exactly what I was looking for, because the scene in World of Warcraft wasn't nearly as big compared to League of Legends. So watching a BlizzCon once a year, and you see this League of Legends worlds, and at the arena, and I was like, okay, like this is cool, this is big. Yeah. I like the game. Let's look to learn the game more.
So you learned the game more, and you got yourself right up into the scene. And as we covered earlier, you've got a long list of teams and squads under your belt. So really, what was it ultimately that drew you to where you are now, to FlyQuest? What made you want to join? And then Nick, if you can answer after him, what got you here?
For me, what got me on FlyQuest, multiple things. First one is passion to coaching and love to the game, and second one, partly. So my grandmother used to go to this lady that, I don't know what word you use in English, that is supposed to predict the future, right? What is the name? Fortune teller, right? So, and I remember my grandmother told me a story like around 4 years ago. So she went to this fortune teller, and the fortune teller said that you have a grandson, and this is your like first grandson, and I'm the oldest one. and he's gonna be the sun of the world. And what she meant by that, she explained it, that he's never gonna stop at one place. Like he's gonna be kind of like traveling all around the world. So I was, when I was working in Moscow, working in Berlin, in Madrid, in Malaga, in Warsaw, I was like, every time I was moving the city, I was like, she was right. She somehow she knew it. Somehow she knew it. So yeah, that's what maybe that's what got me in FlyQuest. Like just like willing to learn, willing to see the world,
That's
and
great.
definitely the drive and my drive was I always wanted to coach at the higher level, like at the top league. And I think in that off season after we won EU Masters with Rock, it didn't nearly go as expected in terms of like demand or the amount of tryouts or dialogues. And I usually have the approach where I don't expect teams to message me, because I know a lot of teams might be locked, a lot of teams might be have their decent different plans. So for me, it's really important I think it's a good advice for players as well. You need to make sure that team hears your name, wants to know about your existence. So as soon as the off season hits, for me it doesn't matter what type of performance I have, either I'm last place both seasons or first place both seasons. I do reach out to teams. So no matter, despite me reaching out didn't really help me. I think the only real shot who gave me it was FlyQuest, and it was like super late in the season, and it's the only opportunity I had. I pretty much agreed vocally, verbally to extend my contract with Rock, and I agreed on the race, and then last second got an opportunity to join FlyQuest that I accepted. So that's my story.
Background on that is awesome.
That is wonderful. And then Nick, how about you? How'd you get into
So my
FlyQuest?
fortune teller told me that there would be a grandson from Belarus. No, honestly, I mean, I was with Team Liquid, and then subsequently joined Immortals. We made Worlds in 2017. I think at that time there were numerous things, both externally and internally, that I think made me consider, what would it look like if I explored kind of elsewhere. Then it coincided with us losing the franchise spot going in 2017. So at that point, I was like, okay, obviously there's, I was just on Team Liquid. There's also Cloud9, there's TSM. Those are like, the top 3 teams you'd probably want to join if you were like, this is going to give me exposure. They're willing to spend, etc. Right? But something that I've always been is more of a builder. I'm not someone who loves to operate as much. And so when I looked at FlyQuest as an opportunity, and they were kind of looking to kind of build something new after the 2017 campaign so that, they could be successful in franchising, I just said, okay, there's obviously pros and cons to every organization you're going to join that's new. But it felt like the right opportunity to join, to just build. And that's what got me the most excited. So when I jumped ship at the end of 2017 over to FlyQuest, I was lucky enough that there were opportunities for, Trisha, who was our head of sales at the time on Immortals, Ricky, who was the head of content. They all kind of joined with me. And so it was like our whole platoon, we got to come over together, continue working. It's, I think we're going on 5 years now of us kind of all working together. We know how we work. We've always been, head in the trenches and willing to do whatever it takes to be as successful as possible, given the resources that we have at our, disposal. And so that's what got me excited about the opportunity. And I think that's probably what's made me stay. I think it's really rare to find people that you want to work with kind of long term. And I think that's also why I think it's an exciting opportunity for Alex. And for me, I've always been someone who tries to do my best to give people opportunities and invest in people. And I think, the next, 2-3 years of Alex's head coaching career as he steps into a major region, I think it's going to be really exciting. And he's someone that I trust a lot. So.
It's kind of cool to just hear that you guys have always just stuck together as a core. So if anything, I mean, you guys have the success there. So it's cool to know that no matter what, you guys can replicate it again. So hopefully coming into the next couple of years, we'll continue to see that. Following up on that, though, I wanted to ask, just as we're kind of working our way through the years, we kind of covered 2017 through like 2020, basically, right? Mm-hmm. But I wanted to ask you guys, just what were just your general thoughts on how this past year has gone for both you personally as well as for the org?
I'll start, and Alex can fill in the blanks. I think after that, he can give a little bit more context for himself. But essentially, I think this year was a bit of an unfair year for, I think, everybody involved under me. So that's whether that's coaching, players, whoever. I think we just weren't really set up for success in the way that I think like each individual could be with more prep and more planning. So obviously COVID was a big factor in last year's offseason. It impacted, not only us, but Golden Guardians. I'm not sure if it had the same kind of impact on CLG and Dignitas. It kind of just, I don't know how their ownership groups work, but neither here nor there. I think it impacted us and Golden Guardians the most because we had both teams had contending cores, right? I don't think you could really say the same thing about CLG and Dignitas in the same way in that context. So when we found out from our ownership separately that we would have to pivot and lose all the pieces that we had worked to put together, I had only found that out just over a week before free agency opened. So to go from, and people don't know this, it's not like it was my choice necessarily, like choice, right? But to go from being ready to re-sign all of our championship core and then potentially looking to upgrade a top lane, whether that's through Licorice, through Impact, or whoever, that was like the blueprint. We were ready to be a dynasty product for at least the next 2 to 3 years. Fast forward, unable to do that, plans fall apart. For most GMs, I think similar to coaches, like you're always playing to win because, especially in esports, there's a little more volatility in terms of job security. There's a little more volatility in terms of sustaining a project, and so I wanted to kind of hit a home run. The C9 package became available, and I thought this is probably our best chance at taking prospects that have at least relatively prolific success, and let's do that, and then let's kind of build around that and try to pull in more prospective pieces. Now we have 7 to 8 guys on our roster that could all be talented and could all have potential, and let's see what that comes out of it. Now the problem is, and this is what's different from this offseason, is I did that pretty independently. I mean, I did that with our analysts, but we also lost our coaching staff, and coaching staff recruitment happened simultaneous to player recruitment, and so that means no one really got to know each other up until end of December, early January, right? So coaches got hired without getting to know the players. Players got hired without really knowing the coaches. And so when you're also dealing with COVID, and mind you, in spring of this past season, we were all remote. We didn't work in an office physically together. We are trying to put together pieces of like, what does a team look like with the pieces we have, with the personnel we have, without actually being able to do so. So I would say because of that, that's a 4 or 5 month rocky transition period. By the time we got into summer, I think there were things that, of course, if we ran everything perfectly, and I don't think any program runs perfectly, I think most teams end up dealing with some of the similar issues to different severity. If we had gotten a better head start, and let's say like the start of summer was what our spring was the start of, I think we would have more time to figure things out, and I don't think we would have looked as bad as we did throughout the year. But really, I don't feel like as if our season started until like beginning of June. And so, we take a crash course of June through August. And of course, honestly, I kind of expected results to be the way they were. And so that's something that I think, the big learning experience there. I think it's crucial that a coaching staff gets to know the players they want to, bring in. I think culture is really important to generate and develop. And I think everybody has to be aligned before paperwork signed. And if you can't do that in your off season, I think huge risks involved, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Anything you'd like to add to that, Sharkz? Or
on a competitive part, not really. I think everything, Nick said, it was difficult. I think, especially with the COVID. I think just having like European stuff and not a single like European player, let's say four North American player and Josecito, right, from Argentina. Like it was just like hard to build a bond without like just having a physical presence there in the room, right? Just kind of be stuck with Discord calls. And definitely on a personal note, I think because of the COVID, and I did have a family back in Belarus, right? So a daughter and a wife. I think on a just on a personal note, it was hard as well, right? Like 6 months with no family in here, and and you kind of wake up because the time difference was 11 hours as well, right? So you can only talk with your family as soon as you wake up or right before you go to bed. And myself, it was specifically hard because I've been kind of like, my wife and I've been like together for like 6 years. And I remember like when I went to Warsaw, to Poland during Agorok times, I gave myself a promise, no matter where I go next year, I'm going to bring my family with me. And that was the plan, right? But then we started the visa process, and the embassy just says, "Yep, you're the only one going to the embassy. Your family is not included because of COVID, right?" So that's I think like not having their support, the additional energies that I usually get from my family here, like just on a personal note, that was difficult.
So from the sounds of it, it sounds like coming into this year, though, you guys have got the groundwork laid properly this time around. There's hopefully, I don't know, personal issues aside, but it sounds like you guys have gotten the team atmosphere going properly. You've got the culture going up and running. So I saw you mention in Tim's interview that last year was kind of almost like the 1A, and this year's probably like the 1B of the rebuilding process. So hopefully that's what it is, right? And that's, you guys can continue to go from there. Just quick follow up for Nick. Just how long is the building process for you? Do you expect it to be done by the end of this year, or do you expect it to go another year?
So I think we kind of played this offseason with two goals in mind. Obviously, number one, I don't ever want to be in the same position that we were in at the end of 2020. And if we are, for whatever reason, I want to make sure that we have enough talent cycling to make sure that we are not as crippled, right? With that in mind, I think something that was really important for us was to make sure that the people that we had in place in Academy, let's say, we have Philip, we have Spirax, we also have Yuji, and then I think Toma and Diamond are very LCS ready where they are right now. It's just going to matter, there's 10 spots, right? There's a heck of a lot of players that want these LCS positions, and they might not all get them, but I think they're ready. We just want to make sure that literally by next year, if for whatever reason, in any case we have to pivot, and by summer of 2023, that we'll be ready to do so if we need to. And that's the kind of mentality I want to have every single year. At least a couple guys from our academy program, we want them to be able to be ready within a 1.5 year time frame, generally speaking. If we can accelerate that, great, but I don't think myself nor Alex are huge fans of accelerating talent growth, especially if they need certain levels of development. They've never been away from home, things like that. So that's one goal. I think number two, we tried to find just people and players that would synergize, at least from what's available, as best as they could. And so I think, Alex did share a lot in Tim's interview. We ran off season very collaboratively, and I think Alex had a lot of freedom to interact with the players, develop relationships, challenge these players, test them a little bit to make sure, with our expectations and the things that we were hoping for and we were wanting to get out of the process, that the players that we brought on would be willing to invest the same amount of time into their own process and into their team. And that's the foundation for what we want every FlyQuest team from here on out to be, right? That's like the DNA of what we want our teams to be. So that's the goal more than anything. Ideally, we're able to be as competitive as possible next year in 2023, especially, given it's going to give a lot of our younger guys time to develop. But from day one, when we get into training, our goal is going to be to make sure that we boost our foundations and that we can be as competitive as possible going into summer of this year. And then we see what we have out of our core, and then we go from there.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, definitely. Just to bounce back to something you said, that was an interesting detail about ready to re-sign the Worlds roster. I'm wearing the Worlds jersey right now. So
beautiful jersey. It's one of my favorites.
It's one of the best jerseys I've ever bought for anything. So yeah, definitely miss all those guys and wish them well in their current rosters. So in terms of 2022, you already talked about your off-season process a little bit, but what are the overall goals for this season? I think some of the pundits out there are not super high on the roster. I'm not trying to, down talk anyone, but but like I think Tim Sevenhusen had the interview with you guys, and then also ranked you 9th in the power rankings. I think the Dive was not super cordial about their thoughts either, and that there's some of the more public people. I'm sure there will be other content creators and streamers that will also have their things to say. But kind of like, how do you feel about that? And then, does that like give you any drive to prove them all wrong? And B, like, where do you all see yourself, being, by the end of spring, end of summer? Just, where's the mentality there?
I mean, I've already told Alex, at least, no matter what this year, we need to be in playoffs. I think that's a given. Just like how we feel confidence-wise with our roster, I think it's a given. I think we'll be there. But I think it's like a no choice. We have to be there. The players should aspire to nothing below playoffs. But what I like about being in the position we are in this year, as opposed to last year was the first time anyone's ever overrated or not overrated, but like rated a roster of mine highly. I think every offseason I've been thrown in, I've always been underdog. When we had PoE, Ignar, Turtle, Santorin, and Viper, it was like this team is going to be, anywhere between 7th through 9th. And if you go back to 2019 end of season power rankings, early 2020 power rankings, you'll see, I'm telling the truth. Everybody ranked us anywhere between 7th and 9th. And then spring finals, then summer finals, so that's back-to-back finals, and then we qualify for Worlds. I was like, I love being the underdog. it's so easy to sell, not only externally, kind of like, holy shit, how can you not root for these guys that everyone had pegged for 7th at best, but also internally, it's like, can you believe how foolish everyone was to rank us 7th at best, right? And then I think coming into this year where people are like, holy shit, Nick, you did a great job with the offseason. This team looks like at least a top 5 team on paper. I was like, oh, great, that sounds good. And then we proceeded, unfortunately, to get rolled at almost every turn of the year. So for me, I'd love to start a little fresh, especially because we've consistently had younger guys. And I think when you're rebuilding to some degree, you want a little bit of the pressure off. But I'm glad to be in this position because I think everyone is naturally hungry on their own, and it doesn't necessarily come from an external perspective. So from there, at least being an athlete myself, and Alex has been an athlete, it's easier to perform when you don't have so much external pressure. Now, if my guys, there's something we have to make sure of, that our guys aren't so sensitive to social media and whatever twists and turns people might make in terms of comments. As long as we can fortify ourselves and kind of block some of that noise out, I think we'll be good development-wise. And ultimately, everybody knows that, we have a chip on our shoulder and we just have to earn whatever we think we deserve, and that's just going to be the task for most of the year. So I do not mind at all being underrated where we are. I think when people criticize, the quality of our moves, I personally think I'd rather, I've always been this way, I would rather allow our process to speak for itself. And if in the eyes of the community our process didn't end up leading to great results, and we're going to be the most critical internally, but I don't mind that people have their own opinions. We do what we do and we see what happens.
Yeah, that's great. Curly, I think you have the next question, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sharkz, this one goes out to you, or at least we're assuming it's you, because this has to do with the players for next year. And as you said, or as we said, we're excited for Jose Dioto, toucouille, those are the imports. And on toucouille specifically, your experience with the ERL system, some people would say it might be safe to assume you were the one to spot him. Was it you? Was it someone else? And overall, for either of you guys, what about toucouille made you want to bring him to the team?
So it wasn't actually only me. Fun story. So our assistant and strategic coach for this year and our academy head coach last year, Richard Phan, who renamed to Richard for this year, and I guess for the rest of his first career,
Yeah.
Don't think he'll be switching from Richard ever. That's a cool tag. If you can have your first name, maybe maybe I can try. But I know there's Alex. There is Swedish player Alex. There's someone else. It's hard to get Alex.
I was thinking about there's no Ali XA.
No cap. I was thinking about just doing my last name. My last name kind of cool. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Taranda.
Yours is a good last name.
Yeah. So when he was bootcamping in Europe, he actually played against toucouille, and I think that was like 2018 or 19 in Slovakia. That was like kind of long time ago already. Right?
It's 2019.
19, right? So he actually, this guy's good. This guy's good lane face, right? So he was impressed. So for me, how do I know about toucouille? So first one, even this year, he was pretty consistent overall. He was like always S+ tier ERL player for I think last 3 years, and there was some drama between spring and summer when he kind of got his spot in Vitality, got the welcome and was like about to fly in Berlin, and then for some reason, they got later instead of him. So he was there on social media, we were following the stories. And when I was coaching Agorok, I think he was on Games Origin. Yeah, he was on Games Origin, and they were our most consistent scrim partners. And I love scrim in Games Origin. I had good relationship with the coach, Finley, and Smiley, one of their AD carriers. He was player of mine. I worked with him on both teams, like Vega Squadron and G2 Heretics. I love scrimming against him. Toucouille caught my attention with his consistency, lane phase, and he was. I think that year it was only him and Leader who gave Chocolate the biggest problems in mid lane, both in scrims and on stage, right? So he was on my radar, right? And then watching this year, he got Spring MVP, if I remember it correctly, had pretty decent games. Whenever the meta is control mage, he's always popping off. And then, of course, it's not only like, if you think, guys, that, oh, guys, 3 years ago, I remember this guy is good, let's just get him. It doesn't work like that. We did our research, we interviewed him, we watched multiple games, we watched his tryouts, we watched whatever tryouts and what he could provide us this year. We, checked all his solo queue accounts. The question about, guys, he's playing control mages only. What are you gonna do if it's not control mage meta? Of course, we're asking and thinking about the same questions. We're checking if each player is willing to learn other styles. How good is he at learning other styles? One thing that I want to add is I feel pretty comfortable working with players who are not, let's say, as versatile, right? Of course, there are players who pretty much play everything, right? They don't care what champions. They don't have a preferred style. They just see a champion that they think is good here. They're just going to lock this champion. I do have experience, and I do have confidence in myself that I'm able to use the strength of the player. And that's one thing that I'm comfortable as a coach, that I try through the way how I build the team from strategic perspective and I would say the culture in the team. I do know how to make the team cover each other's weaknesses and use each other's strengths. So a good example, Zanzara, right? When the meta was scary, we still managed to win EU Masters by playing first picking Skarner in the semifinals game, and not dropping in single game, and teaching the rest of the team how to play around it and how to use it. So with Toucouille, he showed it through solo queue and he showed it through the interview process and his competitive games that he's willing to learn other styles. And on the other hand, we have Richard, who's going to be spending an incredible amount of time with Toucouille and with Kumo especially. And for me, it's a big bonus that from head coach perspective that I know that I have additional staff member that is responsible to help my solo laners to learn, especially let's say if the meta completely switches and control mages, we have to fully drop control mages and learn some other styles. I do have a person who can sit with Toucouille and help him learn and grind the other style as well. So I'm not too worried. I'm definitely not too worried, And that's where you need to make the decision, right? Let's say Toucouille is 10 out of 10 on mages and let's say 7 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 on AD mids. That's what you need to make a decision. Do you get a high chance of winning if you just I don't care about the meta, let's just pick control mages, I think the chances are higher? Or you're like, okay, I know my mid laner doesn't play, let's say, this mids as good as he is on control mages, but because the meta is like that, we have to play it no matter what, right? And then just making the proper decision, and I think coming to the decision together as a team, because I think it's the last thing you want as a coach when you go on stage and your players don't trust or they don't have confidence in your decision. So that's where, all the talks, practice, and whatever happens, during the process, gonna help me a lot to make sure. I think every coach wants his players to be confident when they go on stage, right? Because I've been in the scenarios where I make my player first time a champ on stage because of his history. I know he can do it, and I think that's where the bond between player and coach matters a lot. Because let's say if coach is able to, put this confidence inside the player and to make him first time a champion, and then he actually pops off, I think this type of moments can build a great team as well.
So would you say Toucouille could have a "Let's Go Vayne" moment, much like Caps had a couple of years ago?
if we're gonna have Alex, we have to go Vayne here. I feel like I have to go for it just for the memes. If it backfires, it backfires.
And Aframu has to look at him shocked. It has to be a perfect reaction. Oh, that would be good.
All right. I'm going to move on to the next question because I don't want to keep too much of you guys' time.
Yeah.
So this next question is for Nick, and I got to preface it with another question. But have you ever seen the movie Moneyball starring Brad Pitt?
Yeah,
and
of
Jonah Hill?
course. Everybody's watched it.
So
I think right. Everybody's watched it.
This is such an esports question to ask too, but
Yeah.
So, the reason I bring it up is because I only just watched it for the first time about like a week and a half ago, and so watching it, for the people who haven't seen it, in the movie there's a thing called sabremetrics, and basically the GM of the Oakland Athletics goes and uses these sabremetrics, and it's just a stat line saying whoever gets on base is more likely to score, and that's how the team ends up winning. I wanted to liken that kind of thought process or that statistics to League. Is there anything that you could relate that to in the world of League of Legends statistics-wise that kind of helps you point towards looking at a certain player, like, hey, we should look at them as a possible prospect that we want to bring on? Is it something that we should stay away from if they're not hitting these particular metrics? Is there anything like that in the world of League while looking at players?
I think not yet. I think teams will use analytics differently, and especially as analytics and data itself become accessible in different ways. Like Riot's changed things a lot over the last couple of years. As that becomes more developed and as that becomes more, I guess, contextualized would probably be the best thing. I think that's where we'll start to see some of those kind of advanced analytics become more useful. Sorry about that. I had to cough.
No worries. Thanks for muting.
No worries. What I would say is, at least for us, numbers are going to be accessories to how we evaluate players for now. I think in the next year or two, as we make more investments into that space, I'm hoping that we find things like that. At least right now, one thing that we like is damage efficiency. That's probably a stat that Brendan will talk your ear out of, next time maybe you have him on the show, but yeah, that's the best answer I can give right now.
No, that's fine. I was just curious to see if there was anything even in development in that world of statistics or anything for League. So it's kind of cool to hear that at least it's something that teams are looking for, but it hasn't been found yet, per se.
Yeah, because we definitely like to talk stats on the show, but we also know that stats don't always tell the whole story. Sometimes the eye test is also just as good in terms of knowing whether or not a player is playing well.
What type of stats do you guys usually pay attention to the most?
Something I tend to look for is usually roam timings as well as the amount of time spent in lane. I typically don't try and look at KDAs or anything because that could be all over the place depending on what playstyle you're playing or whatever it may be. I also look at wards a lot, ward percentage, and as well as wards cleared. I put a lot of emphasis on vision. So if players have like low vision scores for me, like I'm not saying it's the end all be all, obviously, but for me, it starts kind of wavering my faith in that particular player if they don't have great stats in that particular category.
Yeah, and for me, definitely gold differential at 10, XP differential at 10, just like seeing those early laning phase stats. I think it provides a really good, over a broad sample of time, I think it shows a good idea of how well a player is measuring up in lane versus their usual opponents, at least on the day.
For me, I definitely find myself looking at like kill participation, like how much are they like being a part of team fights, and I know that's a skewed statistic because especially in solo lanes, maybe you just have a bloody match where you just keep getting 3 1v1s, but that's one I look at. Yeah,
so moving over to like the academy side a little bit. So Yuji and Spirex, 2 new players, one kind of not really in the collegiate scene at all, and then the other, definitely in there a bit more. The past year, Riot, may I say, finally started paying attention a little bit more towards the academy and amateur world, providing more opportunities for players to kind of show up. But at the same time, we also saw teams this offseason still going heavily for imports. Team Liquid, basically importing their entire roster pretty much. But then other teams, maybe like EG, and then you guys also bringing up a lot of NA talent. Do you all see, and maybe Nick, this would be a good question for you as the GM, do you see that collegiate amateur scene becoming a foundation for NA league, kind of in the way that the ERLs have really come up in the EU as being that bedrock of talent to pull from? Or do you think teams are still going to rely on importing from other regions to try to stay level with LPL, LCK, that kind of thing?
I mean, I think both. Generally, I think, and this was step one, I think this past year, of academy pretty much homogenizing with amateur. I think as these pockets of competition start to blend a little more, I think it'll become easier to scout at a pretty rudimentary level. I think you'll be able to go, okay, now we can directly compare collegiate players versus amateur players versus academy players and actually see who's good, who's not, what makes these players, X, Y, and Z. When you have to compare, let's say, okay, I found the best player in collegiate. How do I know how they stack up to an amateur level player? How do I know how they, you know, compare to an academy level player? It's so hard to do if they're not playing on the Rift against each other at any point during the year. So that's going to be something that's exciting. But I think, given how easy it is to get residency now, and I say easy because it's a matter of going through an application process and paying for a green card at this point. It's not about time gating anymore. So it's not like I have an import and in 4 years this guy's going to be a resident. It's like I have an import, if he's high profile enough, shit, I'm willing to do a green card now and get him in 2 years so then I can import another player. As long as the money is there in North America and as long as these high echelon level players are there and are interested in playing in the West, the opportunity to not only win a major region plus go on to contest for, quarters and semis of worlds, as long as that avenue is there, players are not going to totally care at the end of the day what region they're playing in. Is this opportunity going to get me closer to playing in the finals of worlds? Then I'm interested in it, right? That's what I think a lot of teams are selling a lot of these players on in terms of vision. So I think no matter what, you're going to see that. And then from I think where you would maybe cast the bottom 5 or 6 teams in terms of consistent competitive stature, we might not be able to pull in the Hansamas of the world or the Bupos of the world. But what we're going to start doing is being more creative with, ERL talent importing, minor region talent importing. I think you're already seeing TSM take the route of going into the LDL system. I expect a lot of teams to start finding creative ways to compete with the fact that maybe we're not always going to be able to fight for, Hansamas and Bupos at that same level, right? So we need to create our own product. We need to find our own way to do things to be competitive, and that's the way we're going to do it. I'm excited about that. I think there's a lot to offer from the minor region systems across the world. And I hope that one thing that's positive about kind of American culture and the American narrative is that this should be forever and ever the land of opportunity. And if the opportunity doesn't exist for players that are maybe 15 16 years old in China who cannot play because of the laws that were just passed, or they're in any other minor region where being able to provide for your family by being a pro player isn't as great as coming to America and maybe making a bigger paycheck while still competing at a high level, there's going to be so many opportunities for some of those guys to tell their story here. And America is, it's the melting pot. Where else better to do that, right? So I think importing is not going to go away. Without getting too much into the conversation, I personally think importing is important. I think ecosystem-wise, it is important. I think the only trouble that a lot of people have is just that there are 10 finite spots per position, per team. So if you're gatekeeping at 100 spots through the franchise system plus academy, people will be left out. And if where we're segmented at right now is you have teams that are really willing to spend on really high talent level and teams that maybe don't have the same financial power. Some of those guys that are in the middle, maybe like Biofrost and Solo, for example, and Biofrost I know just came back, but let's say Solo and guys like Zazel, maybe guys like Svenskeren, where they're no longer like the top 2, top 3 in their positions, they're going to get phased out because I think they're also at points in their career where teams aren't sure, like, if I invest in this player, is that person going to get me closer in 2 years to being competitive, or is it more worth investing in younger talent that maybe has higher ceiling and maybe a little more longevity? It's an argument, right? I'm not saying that players that are 30 years old should no longer be playing, or players that are 25 are obsolete to 20-year-olds. Just that's the mentality that is happening in esports, and it's not necessarily right or wrong. It's just that's how teams are making decisions right now. It just is what it is. Baseball has gone through something very similar for the last several years. More teams are willing to flip AAA talent rather than extending into these like multi hundreds of $1 million contracts just for a season or two.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Do you mind if I take the reins here, Sandy?
Yeah, no, I think I know exactly where you were going to go with. So
yeah, because our next question has very much to do with, as you just mentioned, some people like to throw their wallets at the franchise pool or at the free agency pool and see who they can rope in. Last year, notably, the $11 million buyout from Perks and the alleged $2 million salary. And I see here that a couple years back, you were on an episode of Listen Loco with Thorn and Locodoco, mentioning a salary cap after last year with Perks and all that. What are your thoughts on the salary cap? Have they changed at all? Have they been reinforced?
I think so. So at the end of the day, I think I would always be in favor of a league system that allows for, especially in an open market, that allows for small market teams to have accessibility to players that normally would not go to a small market team. So, for example, in today's NBA, for example, Giannis could go to any big market team that he wants. But because of collective bargaining and allowing small market teams to be able to compete from a wage perspective, Milwaukee can still be as attractive as a big market program. That is like very broad strokes, very generic and very vague, and I don't really want to get into it too much. But I would say if we have ways of doing that here in the league franchise system, I would be supportive of it, but it requires a lot of people to make sacrifices. Every stakeholder has to make sacrifices. I think Riot would need to, one, not only show that their selling power and their ability to raise money for the league and create that, diversity and revenue streams for everybody, that's something they're willing to open kind of accessibility to players with and teams and kind of have everybody celebrate in that. I think teams would have to be willing to give control of certain things to players, and I think players would have to understand that they have to sacrifice certain things, because a salary cap isn't just beneficial or bad, whatever direction you want to go, is not just to one party. A salary cap for the league would mean bottom tier players that make, whatever the quote unquote minimum is, that minimum might not be the most attractive minimum number. And the maximum number, wherever that's capped at, may either be not the sexiest maximum number, or there might be such a discrepancy between the high level earning players and the low level earning players that like you create the same. There's this culture, I think, in esports where when players see other players earning a lot of money, they go, why don't I have that same? I think when you're in sports and it's been institutionalized for years and years, you have that mentality as well. It's like, I should be able to earn that too. But there's structures behind that. And I don't think that exists, obviously, in esports. And so, like, you have a rookie coming in and go, why is this 4-year veteran making $1 million? Why can't I make $1 million? And there's like that entitlement that exists here in North America. I think that's stronger than in any other culture. And I think like there's things that work against that. And so if we were to collective bargain and we were to create those things, then I think the only thing I would say is people just have to be willing to make sacrifices and understand that for the good of our league, if that is what everybody is aligned on, you just gotta be ready to sacrifice some things.
Okay.
No, that was fantastic. You like really got that question just like thoroughly for us. Thank you so much for that.
I mean, 3 years ago I threw out salary cap because it's easy. You just say, all these things, and you don't really have to explain it, right? But ultimately, it does come with a lot more thought, and comes with a lot more nuance, and I don't have all the answers. I just have, at least what I understand about how it works in traditional sports, how it can affect esports, and whether that's good or bad. I just think leveling the playing field a little more would be nice. That's it.
For sure. I think it's
one of those things that's not really discussed though that often. So I think it's kind of cool to get your thoughts on it. So maybe other people start seeing the conversation and start beginning dialogues on it, and maybe who knows what happens from there. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to ask and kind of bring it back up again because it's not a topic that I've really seen brought up all that often that I think maybe deserves a little more attention on.
Yeah, I think we've got one more question for Sharkz, and then a couple quick, just kind of like easy softball, silly questions, and then we'll wrap things up. So yeah, Knox, do you want to drop the question here?
So for Sharkz, I really do want to emphasize, like, congratulations on the promotion to head coach. One thing I would love to know though is just if you don't mind describing what your coaching style is going to be heading into this year for all these guys.
Okay, so I've never actually answered the question about the goals, right? Nick was the only one who answered about it, so I can kind of connect to that question as well.
Cool.
So for me, my style and my philosophy, I am obsessed and I'm addicted with team play. I think I actually don't know where it comes from. Honestly, I don't know why am I addicted to team play. Because looking back at my career is I played soccer and tennis at the same time. I always loved two games, but the thing is, in tennis, I always enjoyed doubles way more than singles. And I think why I enjoyed it way more is just because of the emotions that I was getting when you do an action together with your teammate, right? When there are like multiple players instead of just like only you, it's more complex and it can look more beautiful from like sports strategy perspective. So, and when I played World of Warcraft, it's a team game as well, right? It's either like a raid in PvE or it's like 3v3 arena. So there is a lot of interaction between teammates, right? And when I got to League, even now I can tell you I do love League of Legends, but I think solo queue and competitive League of Legends, or even flex queue, right? Like solo queue, or even let's say playing S5 with a voice chat, it's two different games, right? I personally don't care about solo queue too much. I don't enjoy it myself, but I do love and I'm addicted to competitive League of Legends. Especially when you're either listening to your players or like playing yourself, you know, for fun tournaments. Even let's say I was about to say the weekend tournaments, the Clash tournaments, right? Clash tournaments, we do play them like with stuff from time to time. That is hella fun for me, especially when Nick goes AFK and I get insta-lock Lissandra for no reason. But my point here, so my addiction and my obsession with team play, it transitions into my coaching. And I think so far what I've seen in North America compared to what I've seen in some other countries or like other regions, let's just take LPL, LCK, and Europe. For me, I think the biggest difference is team play. I think just like overall, their LCS is behind in terms of like how you play around each other, how you play with each other. And I think the first person who really brought team play to North America on a high level, that's collegiate. Collegiate is crazy. I think every coach in North America would love to work with collegiate. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm jealous for Andre Quilota. You know, I'm jealous a little bit there. You know, this Bjergsen video, you know, the humors kind of became trend, like is that he tried to make TSM buy out collegiate. So that's my style of coaching. When I'm gonna coach the team, and what you can expect from FlyQuest by the end of the year, you will see the team play that you have not seen from them last year. I think my goal is here, and why is the reason why, let's say, Afremo was brought to the roster. I want to teach them how to use each other. I want to teach them the beauty of team play. I want you guys by the end of the, let's say, by the time when summer regular season finishes and we're about to hit playoffs, you will be like, holy moly, they're so good playing with each other, right? Like, just the synergies, the way how the team fights, the way how they use each other, the way how they sacrifice with each other, the way how they die for each other to make sure that their teammate carries. I want you guys to be as obsessed with this gameplay and like as excited about this gameplay as I am. And I think it just comes from practice, culture, the way how you interact with each other, the way how you just talk to each other, the way how you know, all the team play activities, the way how you view the league. And I think through the interview process and through the watching the VODs process, the way how we were interacting with players even before we signed them, we hired them or we extended their contract, is we were trying to see them if they're on the same level regarding how they view the team play, or we tried to make them excited about this basically the way how I'm talking to you, I was talking to them about it. And I think, maybe like if you get to interact with Zach, or if you get to interview Zach, I think Zach Aframo, he is really, really similar to me. I think what he told us during the interview process, he's like, as far as I'm enjoying the game, as far as I'm enjoying the competition, I'm gonna stay in the scene. So for me, I want to build the process where he's addicted to team play as well. Like, I could clearly see him the way how Zach interacts with his teammates, the way how he, even when he plays like other games, even when he plays, the flex queue on his stream with his Twitch moderators, it's hella fun. Like, he loves it. So I think Zach and I are really good duo, and he can be I call this position the in-game coach on my right hand. He can help me to transition like all these team concepts in game, and make sure that this individual talent of toucouille, individual talent of Johnson, Kumo, and Jose, he can help me to teach them what a beautiful team play can do with good individual talent, and that's our goal. So I agree with Nick. Playoffs are important, right? It's important to get top 6 or top 8, top 6, like both splits, right? But I think for me, what's way more important as a coach, that when you come to the playoffs, Mark, that you're super, super confident that our team play can allow us to battle with other teams. I think, getting this check mark out there that you made it to playoffs, and getting into playoffs, having shitty team play, just have some raw individual talent, right? The examples that I gave in other interview, let's say it's Lee Sin, it's jungle carry meta, or it's control mesh meta, right? And just like individual player literally carried us to playoffs just because he's better than everyone else in the league in this specific champion, and it's his meta. And for some reason, enemy coaches decided to go AFK, not ban it out. And then we're here in the playoffs, but like the vibes that you have in the team were so shit, zero confidence, whatever. What's the point of getting in playoffs? Just to check mark the goal. It's like, I guess there is a point, right, for investors. Okay, we actually did accomplish our goal, or for sponsors. But ideally, you trust me, coaches and players don't want to go to playoffs if they know they're gonna get shit stomped 0-3. There is no point. It's like a torture. It's literally a torture. So you're just waiting to die. So what I want to do, I want to be like, we're a fucking good team. Sorry for Kirsten family show, I know. We're confident. We're coming in here, and we're gonna battle with, we're gonna battle with them. We're gonna. I know we might not have, as good as individual talent, or as good as coaching stuff, or as much money as they do, but we got the team spirit, we got the team plans that these kids don't have. Let's go on Summoner's Rift and murder the enemy teams there, because they don't expect it, but we do.
Bro, you just got me so hyped for this upcoming
energy coming off me right now.
That was insane. They talk about like Yamato Cannon monologues, or like speeches before pregame, like we need some Sharkz, voice comms,
Can we get a mic check on you, please, this season?
Yeah, pre-draft, some pre-draft speeches from Sharkz.
He narrowly lost to Denzel for Remember the Titans.
Yeah, I think if Tricky is still in the chat, I'm requesting some draft speech, voice comm videos
at all times.
All right, we're gonna do 3 quick rapid fire questions. The first one, LCS Lock-in. It's in 4 weeks. We are in a group. I say we. I mean, we're all FlyQuest fans here, right? We're in a group with 100 Thieves, Cloud9, Golden Guardians, and TSM. All I want to know, are we going to get out of the group? That's all I want to know. It's yes or no question.
Yeah. I don't think it is important whether we do or not, but I think we will.
Okay, good. That's all I want. Okay, great. Nick, this is for you. I know you're a Seahawks fan. So is Knox.
What do you want to know? What opinion do you want to know?
I mean, 5-8, 5-9 right now. Bit of a rough season. Not the best. Yeah. You are now in place of Pete Carroll, or the GM there. What move are you making? What position needs upgrading?
Dude, is it fair to say everything? Honestly, I think so. So I think we have. I haven't watched the NFL a lot this year.
Yeah.
But I think our O-line has become staggeringly worse over the course of the year. I think our ability to pass protect and at least decrease some of that pressure for our run game has gone south. And this is like not even just this year, but over the course of the last 2 to 3 years. So I would love, personally, if we can find ways to, either give some of the young guys a chance, and maybe we struggle for the first year, for the next 2-3 years, but we need to give some of these guys a chance. I think we're also really poor right now in terms of draft capital and financials. So if we have to let certain people walk, we kind of have to let certain people walk. I think I was reading a few weeks ago, because I play fantasy as well, that I think one of our guys, I think Dwayne Brown, is a free agent at the end of this year, and I think to re-sign him probably cost a ton of money, especially after we already extended Jamal Adams on that sizable contract that we did. I think what we do is you find someone who can play backfield in the secondary with Jamal Adams that can actually play pass coverage, and you invest a lot of your resources there. And then draft-wise, I think we have to look to trade back into the draft to access maybe some of like the 6th round guys, 5th round, 7th round, whatever, anywhere between 5 to 7. I think you have to trade back to get a few more guys in that area. And then the last thing, which is probably on Knox's mind as well as any Seahawks fan, is if Russell Wilson does not want to stay, I would like to see us trade for someone like Justin Fields to see if he's worth anything. That way, you create more cap space for yourself. You have someone like DK, you have someone like Tyler Lockett, maybe you flip someone for a better tight end, things like that. I think we just have to realize that there's probably not a whole lot we can do anymore in terms of like all-star free agents with where we're at in terms of draft capital, that it's kind of time is my opinion. And not the sexiest answer, and it's not the sexiest outcome, but I think that's just what we have to do for the Seahawks.
No, that's great. All right, final question.
I completely agree too. So I agree as a Seahawks fan. Next couple of years I think we need to be kind of what FlyQuest has been doing. I think I need a couple of years to rebuild.
Yeah.
All right, final question, all right, one quick question for Sharkz. Tennis, we know you're a big tennis guy. So, like, what was the best match of tennis? Like, you were just absolutely crushing your serves. Like, when did you feel like you were at your absolute peak? Did you play anyone that, like, went on to become famous? Like,
hell yeah, I played tons of guys.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if I played anyone actually from current top 10. I guess I played Medvedev, the Russian guy.
Oh my gosh, really?
I played.
I know a little tennis, so that's crazy.
I played a lot of. There is a Russian guy, a tall guy as well, Karen Khachanov. He's like top 20. I played some doubles with him, singles as well. I did play Kyle Edmund, Borna Choric. That's the people that were like top 30 from time to time. I played with Djokovic's brother actually in Florida, Miami when I was 14.
Oh wow.
But there are tons of honestly tons of people. I did practice, the girl who is like number 2 right now, Arina Sabalenka. We were in the same group for like 6 years.
That's amazing.
So and her current coach is my doubles partner, who I played doubles for 10 years.
So you've got some real tennis connections then. Like you know. People.
I would say so. Yeah, you know what? You just told me I should start using these connections. It's like someone just got another 5 meal for a child. Like
I don't know. Maybe it's time.
I'm hungry next Tuesday.
Maybe it's time for FlyQuest to sign a tennis player. I know we just landed a Smash guy. Maybe we could.
We have one
outside of esports. Tennis.
Alex just has to come out of retirement.
Yeah.
That's
Fly Sharkz.
Gotta drop
this guy played tennis in U.S. college, man.
Yeah.
Gotta
NCAA.
But about the question, I did have a match. I'm sure I had multiple matches. The first one that comes to mind, it was the biggest tournament I actually won. It was like European Championship in Riga. It was like people from like top 10 played there, and usually when they're like 5 players from top 20 in one tournament, in considered high quality tournament. And I was 14 and the tournament was under 16. And for me, it just how I am is, for me, the best warm up before the match is just to play another match. So usually if you look back at my stats, the amount of matches I won, if I lost the first set and it was the third match, I think I had like, if it's a three set match, I had like 90% win ratio if I like lost the first set. So I needed a really good warm-up. So what happened, it was rainy weather in Riga in Latvia, and the matches got cancelled for like 2 days straight, 3 days straight. days straight. So what the organizers had to do to keep up with the schedule was they just put 2 matches a day, and that was pretty crazy, right? So I just played a quarterfinal match against number 1 guy from Finland, and there was a tough match. I won like a third set 7-5, and 2 hours later, I needed, and that was the longest match, like 3 hours on clay. Usually in tennis on clay is really slow.
Yep.
And 2 hours later, I needed to play with number 1 guy with Lithuania, who just destroyed the kid in 2 sets, like 6-1, 6-1. So he expected, I'm all burned 3 hours that he gonna come crash me, and he was high. He was a higher ranking than I am, and I beat him 6-0, 6-1 without making a single unforced error in the entire match. And the guy couldn't believe it. His coach couldn't believe it. And I'm here sitting. My coach is confident. He knows. If I play another match before the match, it's just doomed for the opponent. It's just no chance. So there was, the guy was better than me, ranking wise. Got destroyed in 1 hour, and the next day I played finals and I won the finals as well. Unfortunately, didn't actually win the doubles that tournament. That kind of sucked, because I wish I could win the entire tournament, both like singles and doubles. But that match gives me a good vibe, because I just remember, and Lithuania, Latvia are super close, even closer. That Latvia and Belarus, and there were way more Lithuanian players, and the enemy guy had more staff, more players to support him, because more Lithuanian players, and Belarusian support Belarusians, Lithuanian support Lithuanian, and then 100 people just watching their Lithuanian kid getting destroyed by a Belarusian guy who just played a 3-hour match before that. That was hella cool. I was like, hell yeah,
That's awesome. That is fantastic.
I can't believe it was 13 years ago. That's crazy. I remember it like it was yesterday.
That's great.
Wow.
And that is a great note to wrap things up on. Thank you, Nick and Sharkz, so much for joining us on the show. This has been a great time. I've really enjoyed having you guys on. I know Knox and Curly have too. Hey, best of luck in the upcoming season. Enjoy a little bit of holiday time coming up. Do either of you got any quick shout outs that you want to throw out there? Anyone on staff that you want to make fun of? I don't know, something like that.
Any good office stories for us?
Go ahead, Alex. Any good office stories? Who won the last office beer pong tournament?
Yeah.
Oh,
Whoa!
why am I not surprised? This guy, he just tennis star, coaching star.
Story time. Quick story time from beer pong.
Okay.
So
all right,
the
all
team,
right.
it's a good one. So I was on the team with Nxi, okay, and Nxi and I just won everything. So story time. So everybody, I was trying to do the bounce shot, right, so I can get 2 cups at the same time.
Yeah.
And everybody, because I was decent, and everybody was paying attention to the table if I was throwing the shot, right? But I noticed by observing the games that nobody was expecting a bounce shot if Nxi was doing a shot.
Yeah.
So he calls, I think there were 3 cups left, 2 in 1, and he calls island.
Yeah.
He calls island, and I come to him and I whisper him on the ear, do a bounce shot because they don't expect it. He calls island, does a bounce shot, they don't expect it. He gets it in an island shot, we get all 3 cups, and we get in the finals.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And we went crazy. We did a chest bump, yelling, dancing for a couple minutes. That was amazing. And then it was so good. I actually cannot believe it. I remember that Jeff, our manager, he was recording the beer pong tournament, the water pong tournament. Okay,
Yeah.
Alcohol's office.
Water. Edit that in post.
I'm gonna definitely ask him if he can find this footage, and I can show you the proof, so you can see Nxi and I then dancing around the office.
No, I love it. I would
my gosh.
love to see that. We will.
Excellent.
We'll keep that. We'll keep that one to ourselves. Yeah, Nick.
So shout out. That's where my shout out goes. Shout out to Nxi for being the best beer pong partner I
Beer pong,
had.
buddy.
Brilliant.
Nice.
Brilliant.
That was
Amazing.
wonderful. That
Love
was
it.
not at all what I expected.
Yeah.
That's
Nick.
amazing,
Nick,
man.
any quick shout outs for you?
Any shout outs? Alex, I'm going to save you on this one. Alex wants to shout out his wife and his child, who are
Aw.
finally able to make it here safely in September. So we're happy about that. I'm gonna shout out my girlfriend and my family and everybody else's family. Hope you guys have a safe holidays. Shout out to you guys for having us on, and it's humbling for us, FlyQuest, to have you guys kind of as part of our backbone, as part of our family. So always thankful for that. And then separately for me, obviously shout out to Ryan Edens, shout out to Trisha, Michael, and Ricky. We've just been doing this thing for a long time together, and I wouldn't trade that for just about anything, except maybe the Seahawks winning another.
Hey,
I might make that trade too.
Legacy
I'm not gonna lie.
Seahawks winning
Yeah,
the Super Bowl.
details.
But those are my shout outs, and I think 2022 is going to be a really exciting year in a number of ways, and I'm just excited to get to it.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone so much for watching and listening to the final episode of the year for Flight Check. We will be back in 2022 covering all things FlyQuest, including their new Smash Melee player, Kodoran. Can't wait to watch him crush it at all future tournaments. You can follow the show on Twitter at Flight Check Crew. The VOD will be up on YouTube and Twitch, and the audio should be online eventually somewhere whenever I feel like getting around to it. And you can follow Nick at Swagasaurus on Twitter, Sharkz at Coach Sharkz, myself at SantosDB, Noxwar at Noxwar with 2 R's, and Curly at Curly_double Q. And I think there's another underscore.
There's another underscore.
And another underscore. All right. I got through all 5 Twitter handles perfectly. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a great night. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to hit the head on the nail, and we will see you all very, very soon. Adios.
Thank you everyone for the past
Happy
year.
holidays.
Happy holidays, guys.
Peace, y'all.